The Yankees just took a series from the Athletics in Sacramento, winning 8-2, losing 6-4, and winning 13-8. And honestly, this series may have shown one of the most important developments we've seen from this team all season. Not because they won the series, not because they scored 25 runs, but because they won games in completely different ways. Game 1, power, 3 home runs. Game 3, 13 runs without a single home run. And that's significant because for years we've talked about the Yankees being too dependent on one offensive formula. This series showed something different. It showed a lineup that's starting to create offense in multiple ways. And if that's real, that's a big deal. So if we go game by game, in game 1, Yankees win 8-2. Carlos Rodón pitched, and he went 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 walks, and only 1 earned run while getting 3 strikeouts. The Yankees had home runs from Goldschmidt, who had a 3-run shot. McMahon and Rice also added solo shots, and Ben Rice went 4 for 5 in the game with that home run, 2 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. It's also significant to note, Fernando Cruz came in with the bases loaded and got 2 pitches, 2 outs on a double play. So, a very highly efficient outing for Fernando Cruz in this 8-2 win. In Game 2, Ryan Weathers went out and pitched. He goes 6.2 innings, 6 hits, 3 walks, 5 earned runs, and 10 strikeouts. Boone went out in the 7th inning, left him in, and he immediately gave up a 2-run home run, which ends up being the difference in the game. But the Yankees' runs in this game, they only scored on errors and walks. In the 4th inning, they scored 1 run on an error. And in the 9th inning, they had 3 runs scored on 3 bases loaded walks. And they ended up leaving the bases loaded with Jazz Chisholm ground out to end the game. But, you had the tying runs in scoring position and just did not come through. So Yankees end up losing that game 6-4. And then in Game 3, the Yankees come out. Will Warren pitches. He goes 6 innings, gives up 6 hits, 3 walks, 0 earned runs, but 3 unearned runs that were a result of an error in the 1st inning from Trent Grisham. Will Warren ends up getting 5 strikeouts in the game. But after those 3 unearned runs in the 1st inning, the Yankees end up scoring 13 runs in the 3rd inning without recording a single home run. They had 2 hit games from Ben Rice, Cody Bellinger, and Anthony Volpe. Wells was the only starter without a hit, but he did have 2 walks in the game. Also important to note, Tim Hill came in, allowed 4 runs in the 7th. Fernando Cruz then came in the 8th and gave up a run. So what was a 13-3 game became a 13-8 game before Bednar came in and closed out the game in the 9th. So we had 2 wins in the series, 1 loss, 25 runs scored, and the series showed both the strengths and the frustrations of this roster. What held in this game? Well, number 1 is the offensive versatility. And this is the biggest story from this series. In Game 1, we had those 3 home runs. Classic Yankees baseball. The Bronx Bombers. Getting it done with the long ball. But then you had Game 3, where they score 13 runs in 1 inning. No home runs, just consistent pressure, traffic, hits, situational offense. And that shows a growth in this team. To be able to get the job done and score in multiple ways is huge. You have to be able to come through when you have guys on base. And the Yankees did that to an extreme in this game, in that inning specifically. Second thing that held, Ben Rice. He was probably the best player in this series. In Game 1, he had 4 hits, including his home run. In Game 3, he added 2 more hits. And at some point, we stopped talking about potential. And right now, Ben Rice is the best hitter in this Yankees lineup. And this is a lineup that includes Aaron Judge, who might be one of the greatest hitters we've ever seen. Third thing that held, the starting pitching. Rodón was excellent. Will Warren battled through some defensive mistakes early. And even Weathers was mostly good despite that final line. You know, if he doesn't give up that last home run, it's still a quality start. But it is what it is. The Yankees' starting rotation continues to give them chances to win. So what did not hold in this game? Well, the one thing that sticks out is the Weathers decision. So this was the turning point in Game 2 when Boone comes out. The decision had effectively been made, and then Weathers convinces him to leave him in the game, immediately gives up a 2-run homer. You know, competitors always want the ball, but the manager has to make the decision. And Boone did say after the fact that he did regret leaving him in. You know, it ends up being the difference in the game. At that point, it went from a 3-1 game to a 5-1 game. So it made it a lot tougher to compete. You couldn't possibly know that we'd score 3 runs on walks and have the bases loaded in the 9th, but it is what it is. Second thing that didn't hold was the bullpen comfort. Game 3 should have ended quickly and quietly. We had a 10-run lead going into the 7th inning, but instead, Tim Hill gives up the 4 runs on 2 homers. Cruz comes in the next inning, gives up another. The Yankees won, but once again, a comfortable game started feeling a little uncomfortable. And the third thing that did not hold was the defensive cleanliness. That Grisham error created 3 unearned runs. The Yankees luckily were able to overcome it this time, but it still matters because there have been plenty of games where errors have cost the Yankees the game and they have not been able to overcome it. We had one really big inning offensively in this game. But without that, those 3 runs could have made a big difference. As for the Yankees' response, the Yankees absolutely responded in this series. And this is where the series becomes really impressive. Because Game 2 ends with the bases loaded. You already had 3 runs forced in through walks. You have a chance to tie or take the lead in the game. And the Yankees leave the bases loaded. That's a frustrating loss. And a loss that can linger. And the next day, they come out. They've got the error in the first inning. You're already down 3 runs. But instead, the Yankees come out in that 3rd inning. And they score 13 runs. That's the response. Not talking, not frustration, but action and situational hitting. So what was the turning point of this series? Well, it has to be the 3rd inning of Game 3. Because after the A's score those 3 runs, Yankees teams of the last few years might have unraveled there. Again, you're coming off a frustrating loss in the 2nd game. You start out this game with that error. And instead, this team, the offense just took over. And the game was effectively over after that response. That inning alone showed incredible resilience from this team. And this is a series that you need to win. You let the A's take 2 out of 3 in New York. You had to win this series in Sacramento, and the Yankees did. So that huge inning in Game 3 completely changed this series, taking it from another series loss to this A's team and swung it over to a Yankees win, continuing the momentum. You know, we had that 5-game winning streak that was snapped with they lost in Game 2, but we're still on a series winning streak. As for our player performances, the positive, clearly Ben Rice. This was an incredible series from him. He had a ton of hits. He had his home run. He's constantly putting pressure on the A's pitchers. The Yankees needed an offensive pillar, and Rice is looking like the pillar they need. Our concern from this series, the bullpen. Because, like we said, even during the wins, even during the series victory, this continues showing up. And it's definitely something that the Yankees need to address. We've talked about it ad nauseum at this point throughout the season. We do have internal options, and some that we've seen. Giovanni Cruz looked great when he came up. Would love to see more of him. There's also relievers out there to trade for. So I'm sure we will see a different bullpen at some point, but you know, I'd love to see those changes start happening sooner than later at this point. And what is trending? Well, it's our offensive adaptability. This is the most encouraging trend from the entire series. You've got the power in Game 1, and you've got the lineup-wide pressure in Game 3. Multiple ways to score means multiple ways to win. And that is what October-caliber offenses do. That's how you need to win playoff games. You can't always rely on the home run ball because it's not always there. And you have to find ways to win games in other ways. And the Yankees did that. So, if we look at our structural check, what is aligned? Well, as we've been saying all season, the starting pitching, it's been phenomenal for us all year. Our offensive depth looked great. To have hits up and down the lineup consistently is a great thing to see, a great change from early in the season. The one spot that we're still looking for hits in is the catcher spot. You know, we're hopeful that Austin Wells could turn things around. Unfortunately, it looks like it's just not quite happening. What else is aligned? Well, our response after losses. Now we've seen this a couple of times. The Yankees, they did it against Tampa, winning the second game of that series after losing the first. And now again, after losing the second game in this series to the A's, the Yankees come out, put up those 13 runs, and win in response to a loss. And the other thing, the last thing that is structurally aligned, is the development of Ben Rice. Because now we're 2 months into the season, and he is still an absolute stud and continues to be. And that's huge for this Yankees team that needs somebody beyond Aaron Judge that they can rely on. And Ben Rice is him. What still needs attention goes without saying at this point, the bullpen. It's not as stable as it needs to be if we're going to win consistently in the playoffs. The second thing that needs attention is our defensive consistency. This is another important part of the game. It's something that cost us the World Series in 2024. You need to have a solid offense. And guys who you can typically rely on in the past, like Grisham, are still making errors this year. And much more than you'd like to see. You know, everybody's not going to be perfect every game, but guys like that who you rely on specifically for their great defense have to be good defensively. And then the last thing that needs attention is closing games cleanly. Even in a game where we have a 10-run lead in the 7th inning, that lead gets cut in half. So that's both on the bullpen and the offense, because the offense scored all those runs in the 3rd inning and then took the rest of the game off, which, as the bullpen starts giving up runs, it would be nice for the offense to score a few more and still have that cushion. So our biggest takeaway, well, for months we've talked about the Yankees needing more than one identity on offense. And this series was evidence that they are developing one. They're not abandoning power, but they're adding alternatives. And that is a huge difference. So what have we learned from this series? Well, number one, Ben Rice is becoming a huge core contributor. He's not a role player anymore. You know, they talked about him platooning at first base with Goldschmidt. They've talked about him in the past, platooning at catcher. He is an everyday player. He is not a role player. He is a lineup piece. He is the best offensive player on this team right now. Second thing that we've learned, the offense is becoming a little less predictable, and that is a huge development. To be able to score in multiple ways is key to a championship caliber team. And the Yankees are starting to do that. And number three, the Yankees are responding better to adversity. And the reaction and the response to what happened in Game 2, where all of our runs on offense came on walks and errors, no actual hits, and to still be in that game says a lot about the Yankees. And then to come out the next game and fall behind early and then still score a ton of runs says a lot. So for our final verdict, the most important thing about this series wasn't the final score. It wasn't the home runs, it wasn't even taking the series. It was seeing the Yankees win through different offensive styles. Power in Game 1, pressure in Game 3. And if this lineup is truly becoming harder to pitch against, then the ceiling of this team just got higher. And that's the standard. It's not just waiting for the big swing, but proving that you can beat teams in multiple ways. This is The Standard with Brian Leavy.